Since Glasgow's medieval settlement, the River Clyde has always been used as an industrious piece of infrastructure, from importing goods for trading up to the success of the Industrial Revolution's shipbuilding industry. In this diagram, I have outlined how the density and purpose of the river has diminished over the years, from its booming industry days through to today. Today's density map shows the lack of land use, and in a lot of areas, a lack of engagement with the river itself, especially compared to the maps of 1948 and 1857. This is because post-industrial Glasgow hasn't had to engage with the river the way it used to. Studying today's riverside buildings, we can see how the city has rearranged itself, or rather, how it has been rearranged by planners. Due to the river's loss of its main functions, planners tried to impose mass-scale interventions to occupy those industrious, empty spaces. While these were well-intentioned, it has some unintended consequences. Looking at both the SECC and Hydro site, as well as the Glasgow Quay, some issues become clear. These new places, built for education, connection, socialization, and performance, are people-oriented functions, but are built at industrious scales. Mixing person-scaled functions with industrious-scale infrastructure in theory can work well, but in Glasgow's case, this left a massive gap that was created due to the lack of smaller-scaled interventions that would have given a digestible gradient of scales to make large-scale things more approachable. Without intermediate scales, what's left is awkward and empty-feeling spaces, places that people cannot easily and naturally engage with or occupy, and this leaves the river's edge even more detached. Looking closer at Glasgow's Quay, we notice the orientation of the site backs itself onto the river instead of looks onto it, which again emphasizes the need for not only consideration of scale, but also a real focus on orientation to try and bring the river back to life. The only place the functions and scales become more digestible is in the city centre, but even there, much of the riverside building's functions are blocks and not integrated functions. The image of the street shows a snapshot of how the building meets the street, and this highlights the chunkiness of the planning. A housing block next to an office block, both without any amenities to meet the street. This echoes along many parts of the Clyde and shows the need for more integrated and blended city function planning. In my research, I found a concept called the third place, coined by Ray Oldenburg, an American urban sociologist. The idea states the first place as the home, the second place as work, which leads to the third place, as defined by Oldenburg, to be the public spaces on neutral ground where people can gather and interact. Third places host the regular, voluntary, informal, and happily anticipated gatherings of individuals beyond the realms of home and work. My concept is to apply these third places to the Clyde and its edges that stretch into the city. With specific sites to focus on, I hope to develop an urban thesis that can revitalize not just the river, but North and South Glasgow and beyond. Testing third places in their simplest forms, such as public seating or a pop-up coffee shop, and comparing those to more complex forms, like my group's Glasgow Reimagined proposal, I hope to develop a way of urban planning that does not impose itself on communities. Rather, it is created and controlled by the users of the community, and can grow and be flexible as that community changes and evolves.